One time I was behind the register at Victoria's Secret. This customer walks in and immediately everybody spots her as a red flag. She's just picking up items, throwing them in her bag, not looking at sizes, not looking at colors. So everybody's like, Everyone's on their walkie like, watch this customer. She's coming to the fitting room. She's headed to the cash wrap. Somebody get her. Check her ID. Get her. Get her. She has a bag full of stuff. And guess who gets her at the register? Me. So she comes to my register and she dumps out her stuff, and we're having a regular conversation. Hi, how are you? Yada, yada, yada. Her total comes up to probably between $700 to $900. It was expensive. My manager is at the register next to me, talking to me on the walkie. Ashley, make sure you get that ID. Don't matter what she's using, make sure you get that ID. So I ask her for the ID because she's paying credit. Why do you need to ask for my ID? Just take it, run it. I'm like, no ma'am, I'm sorry, I need your ID for the purchase. She starts to raise her voice at me.
Story time! So when I was in 8th grade, there was this teacher that we all hated. As the year went on, I started behaving bad in her class, and she eventually threatened to call my mom. So, of course, I had to come up with a solution. I had this friend, we'll call her Kayla, and she would always behave bad in school, so the teachers were always calling her parents. So the day my teacher told me she was going to call my mom, I went up to Kayla and I asked her if she could get the teacher's phone number from her mom's phone and bring it to school. I only wanted the phone number so I could block it on my mom's phone. So she did exactly that. The next day, she gave me the teacher's phone number and I had it in my phone. When my other friends, Jenny and Vale, found out that I had the teacher's phone number, they had the idea to post the phone number on social media, and we did. Fast forward to the next day, and while we were all in class, they ended up calling us to the office one by one, and we had to confess to everything. That's when they told us, did you know that your teacher is a sheriff here in our city and she can press a lot of charges against you guys? She's been receiving at least 20 calls per hour and her phone won't stop ringing. So, of course, we were scared out of our minds. They ended up suspending us for a week, and she didn't press any charges against us, but it makes me so mad that she was victimizing herself around us and our parents. But around other teachers, she was laughing and being all joyful about the situation. After the situation was over with, none of the teachers in school ever dared to use their personal phones to call students' parents ever again.
Hi girlies, I'm back with another story time. This one's a little embarrassing or whatever. It's about the time that I found out that I was the side piece. So long story short, there was this guy who had been trying to get at me through social media for the past 5 years. We had never met in person and I always ignored all of his messages. One day I decided to respond, a worst mistake of my life. We ended up getting along so well. He was super funny and sweet, but honestly the biggest and should have been the only red flag that I needed was that he was in the military. Anyway, we're off and on the talking stage for a couple months, and he ends up coming down to California to see his family, and he says that he wants to see me, so we make it happen. Mind you, he always told me that he was single and he had the biggest crush on me for so many years, so he was just excited to meet me finally because I was finally giving him the chance. Anyways, we meet up twice and he flies back to where he's stationed and we keep communicating. Things are getting serious, I guess you could say. Anyway, 2 months later, girl, I get a DM from... So I get a DM from a girl and she's like, hey girlie, I know you don't know me, but do you know so-and-so? And I was like, yes, we've been talking for X amount of months. Are you talking to him? And she was like, yes, he's actually my boyfriend of 2 years and I'm pregnant by him. Girl, when I tell you I was shook to the core, like I didn't even know how to respond to this girl. I didn't even know how to feel. I mean, I wasn't her. I was just more so confused because we had each other on social media for so long and he never posted that he was in any relationship. So she told me that she found out about me because she was snooping through his phone and he had all of my contact and notifications on hide alerts and do not disturb. Anyway, so we DM back and forth basically the entire day and the DMs are pretty juicy or whatever, but I'm not going to go into detail about that. I answered all of her questions. I sent her all the screenshots she wanted to see and I apologized for not knowing that she was part of his life. He lied to both of us and really downplayed the situation between him and I, but whatever, he wasn't worth it, so I blocked him and her and I became friends.
Girls, tell me about a time where your quick thinking probably saved your life. I'll go first. 2 years ago, I was walking my dog at the park and a man approached me and asked to take a picture of her. And I said yes, because why not? It's a picture of a dog. So he starts taking a picture of my dog and then I realized that he was like holding up her collar and then it hit me. My address is on that collar. He's not taking a picture of my dog. He's taking a picture of my address. So I told him that I actually didn't feel comfortable with him having a picture of my dog, and I asked him to delete it. So he deletes it and then like starts walking away really fast. And I was like, excuse me, sir, no, could you also go into your deleted album and delete it from there? And he goes, I don't have a deleted album. And I was like, you have an iPhone. Everybody has a deleted album. Could you please delete the picture? And he was like, sorry, I don't have a deleted album. And like keeps walking away. And keep in mind, this is like 2 PM in a park. Like there's other people around. So now I'm like chasing after him and I'm telling him, sir, I know you have the album. I will show you where the album is. Can you please go onto your phone so that we can delete the picture? Oh, part 2. Part 2, I'm sorry for the delay. So I'm still chasing after him, and people at the park are like starting to look at us now because I'm chasing after him and I'm telling him to stop walking. And so he stops, and I tell him again to delete the photo from the deleted album, and he goes, I don't have a deleted album. And I was like, yes, you do. Everybody does. It'll take 10 seconds. And he goes, fine. And he like goes on his phone, does something for a second. He goes, there, it's gone. And I was like, could I see the deleted album just to make sure it's gone? And he goes, no, you can't look at my phone. And I was like, I don't want to look at your phone. I just want to see the album just to make sure the picture is gone. That's it. And he goes, no, you're not going to look at my phone. And I was like, sir, I'm not going to stop and I'm not going to leave until you show me the album. So please just show me the album so we can be done with this. So he shows me the album. The picture was still there. So I made him delete it in front of my eyes. What if I hadn't noticed that he took a picture of my address? And what if I went home that day and, you know, that night when I took my dog out to pee, he was outside waiting for me? I mean...
Story time! Okay, so my name is Chelsea. I have been pretty good looking all of my life, but last year in college I had a bit of a glow up. On my first day of freshman year, I met this girl named Sophie, and me and Sophie became great friends and we would always hang out. But when it was summer break, her and her family ended up going to Hawaii and I didn't see her until the first day of school. And that first day of school, when she saw me, she just looked at me up and down. I didn't really think I looked any different except for the fact that I dyed my hair. She then said, you look different. I just shrugged it off and acted like it was fine, but for the rest of the day, I noticed that she kind of ignored me and kept staring at me. Well, fast forward a few weeks and I had started talking to this guy named Lucas. And whenever me and Sophie would hang out, Lucas tagged along. And one thing I want to point out is that Sophie would try to flirt with Lucas and exclude me. I didn't really think anything of it until this recent month. I noticed that her and Lucas started hanging out a bit more than I would like. And the worst part is that they no longer asked me to join them, so of course I got a little mad. Fast forward a bit and I planned to have a sleepover with Sophie. That night we ordered some pizza and when it arrived, Sophie went out and got it and she left her phone in the room. That's when I noticed she got a text from Lucas. So Sophie went downstairs to go get the pizza and she ended up leaving her phone behind and I ended up glancing at it. That's when I noticed that she had just gotten a text from Lucas. And now hear me out. I know it was wrong for me to look at her phone, but I opened it anyways. I then read the text which said, hey babe, so I know we've been seeing each other lately, but I don't think it's fair to Chelsea. So I'm gonna break up with her, but I don't want to do it, so can you do it for me instead? After I read that, I scrolled up on their text and I realized that they've been seeing each other for months. To make it worse, they were sending each other inappropriate messages and talking bad about me. While I was reading everything, that's when Sophie came back upstairs with the pizza. And of course, I confronted her about it. That's when Sophie admitted to sneaking around behind my back with Lucas. And instead of taking out my anger on her, I just got up and I left. Fast forward a few days later and I was in English with both Lucas and Sophie. And with my luck, of course, we ended up being in a group together that day. While we were in the group, I tried to act cool about it, but I just couldn't. I ended up confronting them both on the spot and called them out, which made it pretty awkward. After I called them out, they both didn't really have anything to say. But I'm happy to say that that situation is over and done with and I'm finally over it.
Story time about how I caught my husband cheating on me with a neighbor. My husband is a really rich guy. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I first met my husband when I was 20 years old and he was 10 years older than me. He was basically my sugar daddy. Once I graduated college, he asked me to work at his company. I did all of the marketing. But eventually we wanted to have kids, so we decided to move to a bigger house. We ended up moving to a really secluded neighborhood with lots of rich families. One of our neighbors owned a yoga studio. There was also a young couple living across the street from us and they were also business owners. It was the perfect situation until I noticed that my husband was paying less and less attention to me. Well, I didn't hesitate to ask him why. He denied it and said that I was making things up in my head. So I installed an app in his phone that would send all of his text messages and emails straight to my phone. And guess what I saw? Text messages between him and the neighbor who owned the yoga studio. She was 10 years older than my husband, so I never saw it coming. I started collecting all the evidence into folders, pictures, and text messages. I wanted to catch him in the act. So one day I said I was going to a spa for the entire day. I told my husband I was gonna be at the spa all day long. I wanted to see if he was gonna bring the neighbor around to cheat on me some more. When I got in the car to leave, I get a message that he sent to the neighbor. Like I said, I had planted an app in his phone, so I was receiving all the messages he was sending and receiving. And of course, he sends her a message saying, hey, my wife's gonna be at the spa all day, we're free. And she replies saying, perfect, I'll come over. My stomach dropped. I drove around for a bit and waited for her to get to my house. Then I see she sends him a message saying she's there. That was my cue to go back to my house to catch him in the act. I race back and enter the house super quietly. I go into the living room and don't see anything, so I assumed they were in our bedroom. I go up to the bedroom and no one's there. And I see they're in the backyard in the pool. I pull out my phone and press record. I run downstairs and I surprise them in the act. They were both naked and my husband jumps out of the pool and wraps himself in a towel. Our neighbor stays in the pool. My husband says, I was gonna tell you, I swear. It gets worse. Part 3 is up. I catch my husband doing dirty things in the pool with our neighbor. I'm recording all of this, by the way. He says he was gonna tell me. So I show him all the evidence that I had been gathering, all the messages and the pictures. But little did he know I had already hired a lawyer. I'd known about the affair for about a month at this point. I had already been working on the divorce with the lawyer, documenting every single transgression my husband committed against me with our neighbor. And when I told my husband, he freaked. The neighbor, aka the woman my husband was with, she got out of the pool and went home. I printed out some flyers with all the pictures she had sent my husband and spread them around her yoga studio. I now get $10,000 from my husband monthly.